Oh, welcome to Ole Walls' house. It's me. It's your man. It's Ole Walls, and I'm back with you for another episode here this week, episode 170, 170 coming your way. Got a fun show. We had one of our favorite guests on, Ethan E Sexton, here to talk some baseball with us. He had some other topics he wanted to talk about, but we talked about a lot of baseball. Before we get rolling, thank you. Appreciate all support. If you guys could, please rate, review, comment, subscribe, and share. You know the deal. Do all that stuff. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Pods, YouTube, Amazon Pods, all the good places. Don't forget about my guy MJ over at the Full Range podcast. He claims I never shout him out, but here it is, MJ. You can find him on Spotify, the Full Range podcast. You can find him on the Ole Walls House YouTube channel. Him and I are going to be doing a live NFL draft episode. We'll be going live for the entirety of the draft, so check that out as well. So without any further ado, let's get into it and dive in with me and Ethan here. Ladies and gentlemen, he's back. Ethan E Sexton. On top of being here to talk some baseball, we know he's also a soccer and golf analyst. Well, he's told me he's got a basketball take to lead off the show. Yep. So we're just going to let him run with that right out of the gate.
All right, Wally, thank you for having me. All right, man. Baseball season's back. I'm happy to be here. I want to wish you a happy belated birthday. All right.
Thanks, brother.
And I also want to wish you a happy double M day as we're recording. Okay. And
hell yes.
Listen, I don't know. I don't really follow basketball, especially college basketball, too close. Especially like a guy like MJ, somebody like that really lives for college hoops. But I do have a take. Okay, so we're recording this. The Final Four is going on. Auburn and Florida are playing 4 1 seeds, right?
Mm-hmm.
Women's side, 3 1 seeds and a 2 seed. The 2 seed beat the 1 seed that lost their best player, arguably one of the best players in women's college basketball. So do we think that, in the NIL era, our Cinderella run's dead? Because I'm sure that, we'll get one again. But let's think about this, all right? So, Steph Curry played at Davidson, right? If NIL was in existence when Steph Curry was in college, there ain't no way Steph Curry was going back for an extra year or two at Davidson, right? He's finding his way to a blue blood. John Morant, Murray State, same thing. So what do you think, man? You think NIL is going to kill Cinderellas in March Madness or what?
I do, but I also said this last week on the pod. I said, let's pump the brakes just a little bit. Like, it's 1 year. Like, It's been here a couple years. Like, I think it's kind of fully formed itself into what it's going to be going forward until the NCAA probably comes around and, changes it again. And I really do think you're probably right. Like, you look at there's a screenshot of, where every kid started in the Sweet 16, their starting fives. And there's one where there's 2 Tennessee kids on one team, and I don't actually think it's even Tennessee. Right. I think those 2 Tennessee kids ended up on a separate team together. So I think you're right. I think that is what's going to happen. We're going to see a lot more of the powerhouses. You will still see a Cinderella run here or there, but I think it's going to be dominated by Big Ten, SEC on the second weekend and beyond. With an ACC or a Big 12 school kind of moved in. Big 12 is a little better in basketball than it is in football.
Right.
So I do think that. But also, I do think we need to pump the brakes just a little. There's a lot of people out there oh, it's over. It's done. There's never going to be. I'm okay, just hold on. What 4-1 seeds have gotten there. And it always happens that way in women's basketball. Women's basketball is always so chalk. But 4-1 seeds got to the Final Four. I think it was in 2008. So it's happened, relatively recently. That said, I do think long term, that's what it looks like.
I mean, NIL is really interesting the way it's changed college sports landscape with the power conferences, especially in the blue bloods, right? Like wrestling, even in wrestling, it's happened a lot. Baseball, I think 6 of the 8 teams that reached the College World Series last year were from the SEC. So it's just it's interesting, man. It's crazy. Yeah. It's kind of wild.
And the NIL thing is so interesting, and I think what everybody thought it was going to be is not what it's become. where like these big power schools have these like collectives now,
right,
that are like paying kids before they even get there. I think a lot of people are like, oh yeah, like this kid, like we talk about like Steph Curry, like, oh, Steph Curry blows up at Davidson. Like somebody in that area, or maybe nationwide with a guy like Steph Curry, are just going to be like, hey, we'll pay you to like advertise for our, be a part of Subway's like latest, commercial chain. And it's been kind of totally different than that. And that all these schools are like, oh, we'll just pay you to come here and play. And like, we're getting donations from our big boosters to be like, here's an NIL fund, pay them essentially.
Right.
It's basically turned into more like just pay for play as opposed to like pay for the actual like name, image, likeness thing. So I think that was a little hard to see coming, but yeah, in all, to circle back around to your kind of original question, I think what we saw this year will be the overwhelming trend in college basketball going forward.
Yeah, it's Blue Chips. You ever seen that movie? I'm sure you have, right? So it's kind of that movie. I
caught you on Letterboxd watching that.
Oh yeah, I can't watch as many movies now that I got a new job. But hey, whatever. But yeah, it's just I'm not against NIL or anything like that. I just think it's going to be interesting what it does to the competitive balance of college sports.
Yeah, and I'm not against it either. Like, I think the amount of money like these schools and like the NCAA makes off these kids, like the fact that they weren't getting paid was criminal. So it's just different. And it's just going to take people, I think this is year 3 of NIL, maybe 4.
Maybe, yeah, I'm not sure.
Like it took a couple years to kind of round itself into form, but like, I think now we kind of see what the formula is going forward, and we'll just adapt to it. And, you're going to see, different things. And I did say this last week too. So sorry for people who listen every week and I'm repeating myself. Brandon Walker on Mostly Sports, he's like, the Cinderella stories now are going to be the individuals. Like the kid that started at Wichita State, transfers to Duke, goes on a run with Duke there. Like those are going to be the Cinderella stories as opposed to like the whole teams, 2-3 of them every year.
That makes sense. I will say one last thing about college basketball as a very casual observer. Okay, last year everyone kept telling me Big Edie, was the star, the best player in college. And I got to tell you what, watching Cooper Flagg highlights, it's a lot more believable that he's the best player in college basketball than it was for Big Edie. Now, Big Edie is a little at a disadvantage, I guess, as kind of old school, like back to the basket sort of center. But Cooper Flagg's a little more exciting to watch than Big Edie was last year.
Yeah, Big Edie was like old school center on the block, feed him the ball. Like he's not going to go out and like catch the ball out on the perimeter and create it all. Cooper Flagg is incredible, and the dude just turned 18 like 4 months ago.
Yeah. It's kind of wild that, you can graduate high school and be the best player in college immediately, and then 1 year removed from high school, you can be in the NBA playing against 40-year-old LeBron James. Kind of cool. But yeah.
Yeah, Cooper Flagg probably wasn't even, he definitely wasn't born when LeBron played his first NBA game.
No.
It's wild.
Yeah.
All right. Nice way to start a C. Tie us in, keep the college basketball mojo going a little bit through the championship game here. Let's talk some baseball now. We're about a week and a half into the season. Well, like 3 weeks if you count the Dodgers starting the season over in Japan. Let's just start with that. What do you think about that? Because I've seen some people kind of making some complaints that, those teams are going to have a little bit of an advantage in the season because they're going to get a couple extra games back, basically. I mean, in over 162 game season, does it matter that much?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm cool with it, right? Like, I don't know why they start so early. I'm not exactly sure what the rationale is for that, why they go so much ahead of opening day. Maybe it's just the extreme travel, you know what I mean? That could be the case. The only real advantage it gives those teams is that they're going to get to use the starters from that series in the opening series stateside as well. Mm-hmm. Basically get 2 starts from guys like the Dodgers got 2 starts from like Yoshinobu Yamamoto, the Cubs and Shota Imanaga, they got 2 starts out of them, in their first 4 games, whatever it was. So there is a little bit of an advantage if you want to say it that way. But overall, I don't really think it creates too much of an advantage. I'm perfectly fine with it. They want to grow the game internationally. I thought it was kind of cool. Cubs and Dodgers both had a lot of Japanese, like, legit superstar level players on their team, so it made a lot of sense for them to go there and play. And, I got to tell you, Wally, like, baseball ends and, I like football. Of course I do, right? Like I watched NBA this year to kind of fill the gap when there was nothing else on. But I'm looking forward to baseball coming back all winter, right? And then, it's kind of nice to get that 2 games. It's on at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm getting around for work. I got the game on. I enjoy it, so I've got no problem with them doing that. And I don't think it really creates any real advantage for the teams that get to go do that.
Yeah, I heard like the complaints about it. My thought was like, really, like, so they get 1 extra start. Maybe they're going to have a couple extra days off in the middle of the summer. Like, I don't know, 162 games. Like, those teams are slated to be pretty damn good. Like, right. Anyway, I don't think it's going to matter. I mean, and they've been off to great starts. I mean, the Dodgers are off to a 9-1 start, and Cubs off to 7-4. I mean, while we're talking the Dodgers, I mean, they have to be probably the odds-on. I haven't looked at any future odds or anything like that, but I'm imagining they're the odds-on favorite to repeat this year.
Yeah, plus 240, so they are the favorite. And, it makes a lot of sense. Plus 240, like, would you take the Dodgers or take the field? I would take the field, right? Because baseball is such a random sport. But, like, plus 240, I'm not a big bettor. So I don't know, like, what they would have been last year or what the favorite team would have been last year. But plus 240 is pretty low for, a team to win the World Series. But deserved, I would say. Like, this is a team, they did it last year. They arguably got better. And, a lot of people want to hate on the Dodgers, and I can understand it. They got a lot of money. They definitely have a lot of money, okay, and they use it. But what they do is they use it wisely, okay? All these teams have money, all right? Some more than others, obviously. But the Dodgers spend their money very wisely. They're an extremely well-run franchise, and I just have a lot of respect for how they take care of their business, okay? Their international scouting is top-notch. Their player development, top-notch. They make great trades. They flash their money in free agent signings. I mean, if you asked anyone who's a fan of another team, they would be like, this is how I want my franchise to be run, right? So I can understand the hate because they're so good, they're rich, they've got all these star players. But they're just a well-run organization, and I respect them, honestly, for what they've been doing, the last decade plus. I mean, they're pretty tough, but yeah, I mean, they're definitely deserved favorites. But it'd be hard to really get on board with those odds, I think, just because they're so low, and baseball is just that one of those sports where really anything can happen, especially in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, in playoffs, your starter gets shelled, your like ace gets shelled one game, and it's like all of a sudden the whole game plan flips around, and if the opposing team's ace isn't lined up with them and they get their guy up next, like weird shit happens. Yeah, I found this. I was actually just reading this article today. It was like, I think it's an older article. I think it's actually from back in like October, and I probably read it then too, but they call it the Scrooge Index, the percentage of payroll versus the revenue the team makes. And obviously the Dodgers bring in the second most revenue behind the Yankees, $637 million. So I think this was as of last year's.
Okay.
They were spending $428 million of that 637 for 67% of their revenue being spent. So the Yankees 52, the Braves 56, Phillies 56, the Mets 102%, spending more than they bring in right now.
Yep.
Blue Jays up at 61, but most of those teams are like hovering around the 50%. You get some teams, probably in some rebuild modes too, like the Reds, Tigers, the Rays obviously are the lowest.
Where are the Pirates? Because the Pirates don't spend any money, but they probably also don't bring in a lot of money. They're
spending 41%, 118 of their 287. There's only 4 teams that bring in less money than them.
Okay.
I mean, they're quite far down. So, I mean, 287 versus what the Dodgers brought in at 637. So it was an interesting chart.
Yeah.
And the kind of like business aspect of baseball has always intrigued me with like the local revenue based off the local TV deal versus, in a football and a basketball. Well, A, there's the salary cap, but B, they're collectively bargaining out the TV rights. And that's where like the majority of the revenue is coming versus where in baseball, it's all based off local TV rights. And now, especially going through this whole thing where that Diamond Sports Group that had a lot of
Yep.
The local TV networks going bankrupt and getting out of the business, and a lot of teams like selling their own rights through the MLB TV app. Like it's been I found it all kind of interesting in how it all works. And I just wonder how long baseball goes on doing it the way they do, with no salary floor, no salary cap. Obviously there is the payroll, the luxury tax that comes into play, but it's always just been something that's been kind of interesting to me. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that at all.
No, I mean, I don't know. Everybody keeps saying that the next collective bargaining agreement is going to be a bloodbath, so I'm a little worried about that. And, if there's going to be a work stoppage or anything like that. But, I don't think the players want a salary cap because it restricts how much money they can make. But then it's hard, if you don't want a salary cap, it's kind of hard to come in and say, hey, these teams got to start spending at least this much money, with the salary floor too. So I don't know what's going to happen there, man. And sometimes I just try not to think about it because I don't want to think about a work stoppage, basically. But we'll see. It'll be interesting for sure.
Yeah, everything I've read is that the players' union is almost 100% against a salary cap for the exact reason you said. It's going to bring down some of the top end salaries, and they don't want that.
Right.
Excuse me, I'm battling through a little sickness here, so if I have to keep muting myself and to cough here. Let's talk about your Phillies a little bit, as we kind of run through some of the other top teams. Another team off to a good start. Granted, we are just barely into the season. They're 8 games in, but they got a fun series coming up. They're heading out to the Dodgers. What do you think about your Phillies so far this year?
Yeah, so far so good. They've been playing pretty well. They're like you said, they're playing the Dodgers right now. Gave the Dodgers their first loss last night, and then they got beat here today on Saturday. 2 of the best teams in the league. I think they're the 2 highest odds to win the National League. Obviously, the Dodgers are the favorites, and the Phillies are right behind them there. So, I mean, the thing about the Phillies is, they kind of got to do this, sooner rather than later, because every year that great core of players that they have, and it really is a great core, you know what I mean? They've done a lot of good things together, but every year they get a little bit older, right? And every year, guys are going to start, reaching their back into free agency, the end of their contracts, and it's going to get a little, disjointed from what it's been over the last few years. So I don't know if the pressure's on so much, but I do think that this is a really pivotal year for the Phillies to try and get that World Series that's eluded this core over the past few seasons. Yeah,
I was just trying to pull up it real quick. What the last few years have been, because it felt like they've been. I can't figure it out here to grab, but it felt like the last 3-4 years probably they've made some good runs in the playoffs. I mean, 22 was the World Series year for them.
Yeah, 22 they reached the World Series, lost to the Astros. 23 they got beat in the National League Championship by the Arizona Diamondbacks, which is still the one that kind of chaps my ass a little bit because they had a lead. They needed to win one game. They were coming back home and they couldn't get it done. So that was a pretty unfortunate one. And then last year, they lost in the division series to the Mets, which, I don't care for the Mets. So that one stung a little bit. But yeah, every year, one step backward it's been the last 3 years. So they really got to, like I said, it's kind of a pivotal year for this core group of guys. They're getting older, and they got to get it done, sooner rather than later, because they're not going to be together forever.
Yeah, and I pulled it up, and this is kind of what I was trying to figure out, because I thought I had this feeling that they've gotten better in the regular season every year,
yes,
but then kind of regress back in the playoffs. And it is weird, windows in sports. You look at them, you're like, oh, we've got 4, 5, 6 years, and every time you think that, it's like, oh no, you've got it turns out you had 2 or 3.
Right.
And so you have to capitalize when you can. Like you said, with free agency coming up for some guys, I mean, I would have to guess some of that pitching staff. I know they just signed Nola. Was it Nola last year?
Yeah, so they have Nola and Wheeler locked up. They traded for Jesus Luzardo in the offseason. Ranger Suarez, I think, is a free agent after this year. He might move on. They're pretty deep in the rotation, actually. So they got some guys that can replace guys on their way out. But, it's just, Schwarber, Castellanos, guys like that, their deals are coming up soon. So, it's just not going to be the same team forever.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a really good team, but they haven't got that championship yet. And I know that's their goal. So, I'm hoping that this is the year.
Yep. Who's their biggest competition in the NL East? Is it the Mets? Is it still the Braves? Like, do we just I know the Braves have been off to just a horrid start, but again, it's 8 games.
Yeah, the Mets and the Braves are right behind the Dodgers and Phillies in the odds for winning the National League pennant. I'm not sure the Mets pitching staff is good enough this year to really get them there. But who knows? They made it farther than I would have predicted last year, and then they signed Juan Soto. So they're a good team. It's just they don't have the pitching staff that really wows you, at least on paper. I almost think that this was sort of a retooling year for the Mets. They signed Soto, and then next year maybe they go out and get some big pitching, or they're going to keep spending is the scary thing about them. So I'm not sure. They're going to be right in the mix, I think, but I don't know. I don't know if they'll have enough pitching to quite get it done. The Braves, like you said, off to a terrible start, and the scary thing about the Braves, well, there's 2 scary things. One scary in a good way is that they're going to get Acuna and Strider back at some point. And if those guys can perform, even 85, 90% of the players that they are, that's going to give the Braves a major boost when they come back to their lineup. But the scary thing in a bad way is that they've already had a bunch of injuries. Jurickson Profar, 80-game suspension for steroids. So they got some things working against them right now, but that's still a really talented ball club, a really good rotation that's going to get bolstered by Spencer Strider. They got this guy, Spencer Schwellenbach, who was a rookie last year. He's been lights out to start the year, nasty. So I do think they're still going to be a really dangerous team. I know that people have been floating out a stat that no 0-7 team has ever made the playoffs. I think we could see that statistic break this year for sure, because I do think the Braves are good enough to get back in this thing. It's still way too early in the year to write anybody off.
At what point in the season would you worry about the Braves, if you're a Braves fan, that they've gone too long without, kind of putting it back together a little bit? Is it by May? Is it maybe even to June?
I'd say end of May. If they're but the thing is, the Mets were under 500 for a long time last year, and then got red hot to end the season and made it all the way to the NLCS. So you just never know. But yeah, I wouldn't really start worrying too much unless things get really bad, right? 0-7's pretty bad, but if things get really bad before the end of May, then maybe you worry a little bit. But if you get to the end of May and they're 4th in the division, or they're way out of the division race, then I think you start to worry a little bit. But until then, I'd keep the faith with that team. There's just too much talent there for them to be awful.
Yep. A division that seems, early like it's going to be a hotly contested division is the NL West. Despite the Dodgers being as good as they are, the Padres have actually dropped a couple here recently, but they started 7-0. I watched some of them just putting it on my Guardians.
Yeah. And
just beating them up. And I feel like we've been saying for years, it's a really talented team out there. And they've kind of gone through a little bit of a roster reset, and something's clicked early this year. Are they a team that can keep pressuring the Dodgers?
Yeah, I think so. That's another really talented roster. They had an owner named Peter Seidler. He was, by all accounts, a great owner. Obviously, I have no clue. I never met the man. But he was diagnosed with a terminal illness a few years ago, and he really wanted to try to get San Diego to win the World Series. So he started splashing a lot of cash, bringing in some players, really bolstering that roster. And unfortunately, he passed away before last season. And since then, they haven't been able to spend the kind of money that he was spending in his final years. So they've had to tweak the roster a little bit, like you said. But, that's a really talented roster with guys like Manny Machado. Fernando Tatis, if he can stay healthy when he's on the field, he's a really very good player. And they just locked up runner-up in the Rookie of the Year last year in the National League, Jackson Merrill, their center fielder, who's was incredible last year as a rookie and has started off this season extremely hot as well. So they locked him up. He's going to be there for a while, and it's just a good, a good solid roster, a lot of good talent, good rotation led by Dylan Cease and Michael King. So definitely a dangerous team. The Dodgers are the deserved favorite in that division, but the Padres right on their tail and should keep things interesting at least. I would think. And like Arizona's pretty tough. That's a good roster. They signed Corbin Burns in the offseason to a big deal. That's a good team. And the Giants have started the season really well. So really in the West, the only team that isn't going to be a factor is the Rockies, who seem to never be a factor lately, unfortunately for them. Pretty good division with four good teams that can really, make a push, all of them, for playoff spots, I think.
NL Central kind of seems to be the Cubs' decision to lose, if I understand it correctly.
Yeah, they're the only team with minus odds, minus 135 as I'm looking at them, to win their division. The Cubs are pretty talented. They made a big trade in the offseason to get a superstar, which they've lacked for a few years, trading for Kyle Tucker from the Astros. Now, they had to give up some good talent to get him, okay? This guy, Cam Smith, who was their first-round pick last year out of Florida State, he broke camp already with the Astros this year, and he's off to a little bit of a slow start, but not playing awfully for his first handful of games here. So the Cubs had to give up a lot of talent for just 1 year of Kyle Tucker, but I think it was kind of a move they had to do, because the Cubs really should be a team like the Dodgers a little bit, maybe not quite to that level, that can splash the cash, spend money. They're one of the most historic franchises we have. So they should be able to go out and attract superstar level players, and they just haven't been able to do that in recent years. So trading for Kyle Tucker was kind of a statement for them. What I'd love to see is that they lock him down to an extension, although I'm going to doubt that happens, because I believe Scott Boras is his agent. So Tucker will probably get to free agency at the end of the year. But if you're the Cubs, it's kind of a risky thing, because you got this guy, but you only got him for 1 year. So you really want to take advantage of having him. So I would expect them to be aggressive this season with trying to make some additions and really win that division and make a push in the playoffs.
Yeah, just a pit stop on the way to LA for him, right?
Yeah, probably. At this point, man, who knows? But yeah, it's a really great player. So he's going to get paid in the offseason, that's for sure.
Yeah, let's flip over to the AL here. The Yankees. Smashing home runs with some interesting looking bats. What's going on with those bats?
I'm cool with them. I mean, I don't care, dude. They're within the rules. The commissioner's office has already come out and said they're not illegal. People were using them last year. We just didn't hear about it. I think because it's the Yankees and because they've been popping off, we're going to hear about it more, right? Because they're about as public as a team gets. But it's within the rules. The commissioner's office has already said that, so I really don't have an issue with it. You're going to see guys from other teams grab them and start using them. Guys have already started using them, so I'm fine with that. The Yankees, good team, deserved favorites in that NL East. I think, even though they've had a lot of injuries, before the season even started. Garrett Cole out for the year, really. That hurts them, but this lineup is extremely talented, and as long as Aaron Judge is there and healthy, he's going to be a force. So I think they're going to be right in the mix as always, man. And in a tough division, that AL East, that year in year out's always a tough one. But the Yankees, I think, still, despite their injuries, have the most well-rounded roster in the division at this point.
Is the starting pitching or pitching in general kind of their weak spot, if there is one for them?
I think so, but it's not awful, you know what I mean? Especially given the injuries they had. Garrett Cole, Luis Gil, who won Rookie of the Year last year, both being out. Gil, I believe, should be back at some point. There's no real timetable yet, I don't think. But, I think they have enough that they can stitch it together for a while and then, maybe make a move later in the year. But that offense, I think, is going to be what carries them. And their bullpen is really talented. They traded for Devin Williams in the offseason, one of the best closers in the game. So I think the lineup and the bullpen can carry them, and they'll get enough from their starting pitching to be fine.
Okay. Anybody else in that AL East? I mean, like you said, it's a tough division. I mean, Red Sox, I think, had projections for close to 90 wins this year. Yep. The Rays seem to always find a way to put together a pitching staff.
Yeah.
The Orioles have been pretty solid for the most part in the last few years too. The Blue Jays have spent a bunch of money, I think, in the last couple of years too. Is it any and all comers in that division?
Yeah, I think you got 5 teams that could all be over 500 and all could legitimately have a chance to make the playoffs, right? I mean, I really like what the Red Sox did in the offseason, trading for Garrett Crochet to be the ace of their rotation. Signing Alex Bregman, perfect fit for that stadium because he can just bang balls off the Green Monster. And the thing about the Red Sox is, too, they got this guy, Christian Campbell, broke camp with them. He was a top 5, top 10 prospect in all of baseball. He's off to a really nice start for them. They have the number 1 overall prospect pretty much any website you look in Roman Anthony. A guy that's extremely talented. He's going to be up at some point. Just a really good, solid team. The bullpen's a little scary. Aroldis Chapman's their closer. I don't really trust him too much, but you can always fix bullpen in season. I like the lineup. I think it's a really good lineup, and I think the rotation is pretty solid as well, especially getting bolstered by Garrett Crochet in the offseason, and they tied him down here recently to an extension. So I like what they did a lot. Baltimore, it's really just, can the young guys step up? They got a lot of really talented young guys led by Gunnar Henderson, Adley Rutschman. Can they continue to improve and step up? Can Jackson Holliday take a step after kind of being a bit underwhelming in his rookie year? The thing with them is their rotation leaves a little bit to be desired. They lost Corbin Burns. They had this guy, Grayson Rodriguez, who they were hoping would step up to be their ace number 1. He's hurt right now. So the rotation leaves a little bit to be desired, but really they just need those young guys to step up. And then Toronto, Toronto, they're just a good, solid team. I think last year, Bo Bichette, Vladimir Guerrero, Bo Bichette, had a really bad year. I think he's going to bounce back and be a bit of a catalyst for that offense this year. And Vladimir Guerrero Jr., one of the best hitters in the game. So they signed Anthony Santander away from the Orioles. That's a 40 home run bat. So I like the lineup. They've got enough pitching. I think the division's got really 5 teams that could all be over 500 at the end of the season.
Mm-hmm. It's just Bo Bichette and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. When you said them, it's just so funny now. Like all these kids of like dudes we grew up watching,
right?
Like being in the MLB and basketball and football and everything. It's so weird. Makes me feel so old.
We're getting old, man. Yep.
Where are we at here? We were let's do AL West. That feels like a wasteland. It's felt that way for a couple years with the Astros kind of on the slide. Like, what's going on out there?
Yeah, the Astros, they traded away Kyle Tucker. They lost Bregman, so they lost some pieces, but they kind of added some nice, replaced them with decent players. Talked about how they got Cam Smith in that deal for Kyle Tucker. They put him in right field to replace him. Now, he's not going to be Kyle Tucker, at least not this year. Could be eventually, a highly touted prospect. But he might be able to hold his own and be a decent player. And they got a guy, Isaac Paredes, in that deal to play third base, to replace Bregman. He's a bit of a thumper, so he's a pretty good player. So the Astros, it's hard to really count them out. They got a really good rotation still. Jose Altuve is still a really productive player. Now he's out there in left field. So I think the Astros are going to be right in the mix. I think Texas arguably has the best roster in the division. They kind of underwhelmed last year after winning the World Series 2 years ago. So I think that they should be in the mix. I think the 2 Texas teams there will be in the mix to the end of the year. I think that Seattle, they great rotation 1 to 5. You got to worry about the offense. So if they can figure it out offensively, they can be in the mix because their pitching can beat anyone. And then you got, the Angels and the A's. I think the A's can be improved this year. They actually spent a little bit of money. They've tied down some of their homegrown players. So I think they can be improved this year. The Angels, I just don't know, man. They spend money, but they're really not that good. And they spend money on guys that really don't make them that much better. The main thing I'm just hoping for with the Angels is we get a healthy season of Mike Trout so we can enjoy him again, man.
Yeah, I just pulled up his baseball reference. He's played over 100 games once since 2019. Obviously 2020 was the COVID year. So that was a restricted season that really wasn't his fault. He was an MVP candidate that year. But yeah, only one season over 100 games since 2019. So that was going to be what I was going to ask is, can we get a little something out of him this year? Like just a little flash of, that guy that he was the first, 6-7 years he was in the league.
Yeah, I'm just hoping he stays on the field, man, because I think, he won't be to that level, what he was. But I think he can still be a really productive player. And it's just baseball's better when guys like that are playing. So I just hope he can stay healthy. Yeah,
it'd be cool to see him get into the playoffs again. Well, he's only been there, once?
I just don't know if it's going to happen with the Angels, man. They're just a weird team. They promote guys like as soon as they draft them. I don't know. It's just a weird organization, man.
It's crazy to think he's 33 years old too now. Like he's not a spring chicken anymore.
Right. Time flies, man. It's crazy.
All right, and I know this is the part everybody's been waiting for. We got to talk my guards in the AL Central. Yeah. Why don't we spin around, kind of just touch base on the other teams in the AL Central real quick, what you kind of see, what you think. Obviously, the White Sox stink. We don't need to spend any time on them beyond that, I don't think.
No. I mean, they stink. They're not going to be a factor. They're deep in a rebuild. They made some good trades. They got some good talent from the White Sox in the Crochet deal, so they got a really good Double-A rotation. So that's what White Sox fans, if there are any out there, maybe in Germany, the German listeners.
Singapore is the big country now.
There we go. All right, that's what they can be excited about. White Sox fans is this Double-A rotation that hopefully moves up the ladder together. The other teams, I think they all have a chance to win the division. I mean, it's kind of interesting. Like the Tigers, pretty good rotation. Are they going to get enough offensively? The Guardians, I did not like the Josh Naylor trade, okay? I did not like them moving him because they're a team that's needed some thump in that lineup forever. Besides Jose Ramirez, right? Mm-hmm. And then they trade away Naylor, who has been that thump the last 3 years. And I don't think they really got anything in return for him, unfortunately. So that kind of hurt him. Kyle Manzardo's been off to a pretty decent start, though. So that's what you got to hope is that he can kind of replicate some of those stats and give you guys a boost offensively. But, the rotation looks pretty solid, as always. The bullpen should be lights out again. But we were going to save Cleveland for last, so I'll ask you this question later. Okay. Sorry about that. The Twins, got off to a little bit of a slow start, but they're a good, solid team. The problem with the Twins is their three best players, Carlos Correa, Royce Lewis, and Byron Buxton, are rarely on the field all together at the same time. But I do like their rotation. I think they can pitch, so they should be fine in the mix again. And then the Royals, I think, have arguably one of, if not the best players in baseball. I mean, Ohtani's probably better. Judge is probably a little bit better. But Bobby Witt Jr., the fact that he plays Gold Glove shortstop and can rake, one of my favorite players to watch. I think their offense is good, solid, and I think their rotation also solid. They showed that last year by getting into the playoffs. So I think they can be a very similar level team this year. Not much has changed with them. So that's going to bring us back to the guards, man. So listen, this is the main question I have for the guards. What's going on with Emmanuel Clase? Because he was awful in the playoffs. I mean, they leaned on him heavily. He was really bad in the playoffs, and he's off to a pretty rough start this season, too.
Yeah, I just pulled it up. I mean, where'd it go? He's got a 6.75 ERA. Wait, no, sorry. Where'd I go? I lost him. Holy shit. Yeah, 6.75 ERA in 4 appearances already. In the first series, the bullpen blew 2 leads. They ended up squeaking a game out of that. So it's got me worried a little bit. And they leaned on that bullpen, that Cade Smith, Hunter Gaddis, Tim Herron, Clase, so much last year.
Yep.
It was like the formula. If the game was close at all, it was like you were getting 4, maybe 5 out of the starter. And then they were going to roll that, those guys out there and just hope that they could just bring it home. And I heard a stat watching the game the other day. They held on to the most 2-run or less leads from the 6th inning on. And it's like, man, that is just putting a lot of pressure on the bullpen. And it didn't work come playoff time last year. They were probably overused. And there has been a little bit of some glimmer of hope out of the starting rotation. Gavin Williams hasn't been awesome in his 2 starts, but his velocity's back up. He's been striking some guys out again a little bit. He's only gone 8 innings in his 2 appearances total. But, I mean, that's kind of been the MO of the team in general, is they're getting 5 innings max. Ben Lively's, gotten beat around a little bit. Tanner Bybee's been good. In his 1 appearance, he got sick and missed the appearance. I think he's on the mound tonight, actually, out in L.A. But, they brought in, Paul Sewald to kind of add another arm back there. Tristan McKenzie's pitching out of the bullpen for the moment this year. I don't know if there's hope that he gets up into the starting rotation, but it just feels to me like they got to get, 1 more inning out of their starters this year. It can't be we're pulling guys in the 4th. It's and I know that's kind of new baseball. And, you're only seeing the lineup, maybe twice around. By the time you get to the 3rd, they're kind of getting trigger happy and pulling them. But it just feels like you can't just stand on that bullpen again and make those guys throw as many innings as they had to throw last year.
Yeah, I think that formula is going to be really hard to replicate. I think Gavin Williams is the key guy in a lot of ways because you're used to that rotation being dominant, and it really wasn't last year. You need Gavin Williams to step up and be a guy that can go 5-6 innings every single start alongside Tanner Bybee, because then I think if you got two guys that can do that at least, you can give the bullpen a little bit more of a break and not have to overuse them again. And I don't know, that bullpen formula is just going to be really difficult to replicate. And, the other thing is, are you going to get enough offense? Chase DeLauder, who should have been in the major leagues by now, this outfield prospect, he just can't stay healthy, man. Yeah. And, if he was healthy and in the pros, I think it'd help a lot. But, you got Jose Ramirez, who's an absolute superstar, and then it's kind of sketchy after that. So I think those are the big questions with the Guardians, man.
Yeah, I think, offensively, Stephen Kwan's a good leadoff guy. There's two guys I think that really have to step up this year. I think it's Kyle Manzardo, who's been off to a decent start so far. And Gabriel Arias has got to do something too. Like, he's kind of gotten thrust in as they got rid of, I'm totally blanking on the second baseman. Jimenez, thank you. Like, he's in, like he's an everyday player now. He's got to step up, and he's been batting pretty solid. He's, batting 330 right now in the first 7 games. So, and then they got to find something. And I pulled up his stats because I was expecting to see better. Nolan Jones, it just seems like every time I see him on TV, he's doing something good. Right. And then if I don't know if it's just he pops out to me. He's got a good looking cut at the ball. Tall, athletic looking guy. So maybe he just kind of pops out on the screen, but maybe finding something out of him. That's a guy they ended up, they started off with, drafted him and brought him back through a trade. And Lane Thomas has just got to be better. Yeah. Yeah. He's got to be that guy from, whatever it was when he got hot last year, end of August into September. He's got to be that guy, not the guy who was at the start of the year with the Nationals, and not the guy he's been right now. They need another bat in the lineup that can protect Jose.
Yeah, so Lane Thomas, historically crushes lefties, not as good against right-handed pitching. Nolan Jones, I thought, was a good gamble to bring back. 2 years ago, he was really good with the Colorado Rockies. Last year was horrible. But I think it was a good gamble because all he had to give up was Tyler Freeman, and this is a team that's loaded with middle infield, both in the majors and the minors. So a good gamble, I think, because they need that outfield help, and maybe he can be something, you know what I mean? The one other question for them is, how quickly does Travis Bazzana, the number 1 overall pick last year, maybe get to the major leagues? Are we going to see him at some point this year? Because he's a really talented player, but again, another middle infielder. But if he can rake and force their hand, in the minors, maybe he can add a boost later on in the season as well.
Yeah, it feels like there's got to be. I think this team can probably win the Central again because, I say that, and they had 3 teams make the playoffs last year, so I say it like the Central's like an easy division to win, and it may turn out to be, but I still think they could get through the regular season, but this just doesn't feel like a team that can make another push to the ALCS again.
Right. Yeah, it'll be tricky, but again, you just never know with baseball, right, man? So who knows?
Yeah, and hey, again, 7 games in, the bullpen looks like shit in Class A. You worry that, he got beat up so much in the playoffs last year that maybe it rattled him a little bit. Right. But hey, it could come June and all of a sudden the bullpen ERA could just be flying down and they figured it back out again. Because, they do have some good arms back there. Like Hunter Gaddis, Cade Smith, Tim Herron are good arms. Paul
Sewald's a guy that's got a lot of experience closing. So, it's still a good bullpen. They just got to, watch the overuse and hope that they're not burnt out from last year still,
Yep. Yeah, you mentioned Bazzana, who I think, if you look at the Guardians Twitter, all the dudes who tweet about it, it's like everybody is, just waiting for this guy to get to the big since, as a guy, like you said, just last year was the number 1 pick, or what would have been 2 years ago, technically.
Yeah. It was last year.
Last year. Okay.
Yeah, last year.
So, who else do they got down there that's a possibility? We know DeLauder can't stay healthy, but, is there anybody else that's, a possibility that could come up?
This year, I'm not sure. I think if Chase DeLauder can get back on the field, he's going to be the other main guy that would probably be up at some point. The other things are can you get anything out of Joey Cantillo, who's been a top prospect in the past? He's pitching out of the bullpen right now. He just can't throw strikes, it seems like. There's a guy, Parker Messick, who's at AAA that could be like a back-end rotation guy if they need him. But I don't think you're going to see really any other guys this year that are going to give them a major boost from the minor leagues besides, Bazana, DeLauder, if he can stay healthy. I think in a couple years, there's guys like Jackson Churio's brother, Jason Churio, would be a player, but that's probably not going to be till like 2027. So yeah, as far as this year, I think it's really just Bazana, DeLauder, if he can get healthy, and then some, maybe some pitchers that can make an impact, but not a major impact. Not frontline guys or anything like that.
Yep. Who do you like for players? Some guys to look out for MVP, Rookie of the Year, things like that.
Yeah, so Aaron Judge is the favorite in the American League. Makes sense based on his hot start, right? So he's probably the favorite anyway, I'm going to guess. Can't fault anyone for wanting to go there. Really, the only thing that stops him is if he gets hurt. If he doesn't get hurt, he's going to perform. I love Bobby Witt Jr. think he's an outstanding player. He's plus 550 on FanDuel right now. Wouldn't mind that bet at all. Gunnar Henderson, talented shortstop for the Orioles. Big fan of his as well. He's plus 1,400. So those are the top three names. Looking a little further down the list, Wally, I don't know. I don't know if I really like any sleepers down here. Like Riley Green plus 6,500. No thanks. Wyatt
that was going to kind of be my question is is this a year where it's like, it's the horses are the guy?
It feels chalky. I mean, you got Jose plus 3,000. Not bad, right? He's the sixth highest odds. Vladimir Guerrero's plus 2,800, fifth highest. But do you really want to go that much further down this list? I don't, looking at it. I mean, Brent Rooker's plus 10,000. Like, no thanks.
I mean, just to bet on a guy like Jose, like just because I have experience with him, like,
and you get decent odds, and he's only the sixth, lowest, odds, and plus like 1,000. That's pretty good to take a sprinkle on, right?
Right, but even to go to him, like you're going to need Judge to have an off year,
right?
And you're going to need him to do like kind of like last year, like have close to a 40-40 year again.
Yeah.
I mean, he almost had a 40-40-40 year last year, which was pretty insane, and he got just completely overlooked because of how good Judge was, and like Jazz Chisholm's like banging balls out of the park already this year.
Right.
It's just crazy. Torpedo bat. We got to get some torpedo bats in Cleveland.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing we know is that the odds makers are pretty good at this, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, like, those top three guys make the most sense to me looking at it, and then I really don't want to take sprinkles on any of these long shot guys. Like, I'm just not, in the American League at least, I'm not interested. Yordan Alvarez at plus 3,500, not bad. He's the ninth highest. Wyatt Langford plus 6,500. That's probably the lowest I'd go. I do like Wyatt Langford. I think he's going to have a big year in his second season. So maybe that as a sprinkle. But after that, it gets dark fast. Mm-hmm. So just really don't love anything there. Taking a look at the National League, I just think the National League's Ohtani's to lose as long as he's healthy. And he's supposed to pitch again at some point this year. So if he hits and he pitches well, I mean, it's just his to lose every year. It's tough. I mean, you can get him at plus odds right now still, which is probably not going to be a situation for too much longer. He's the favorite, deserves it. Soto at plus 500. I don't know. Tatis plus 800. Can he stay on the field? That's the big question with him. I do like one little bit more of a long shot. It's not that much of a long shot, but he's the eighth highest odds. Corbin Carroll for the Diamondbacks. He's plus 3,000, though. That's the same odds as Jose, who's the sixth highest in the American League. So you get him at a little bit, further down, though the odds are the same. After that, I really don't love anyone else. I mean, Acuna's plus 5,500, but he's only going to play 5 months probably. So he'd really have to do something special, and he might. Yeah,
once he'd do back, not till
he's going to be back
June. Oh, he is back.
He'll be back in May. But he might not be himself, for this entire season.
Yeah, even if it takes 15 games for him to kind of get back into form at that point.
Right, so don't love that. I mean, really, Corbin Carroll I like at plus 3,000, a little bit of a longer shot. Francisco Lindor, not bad at plus 4,500, but really it's Ohtani's to lose, man, every year, unless he gets hurt, I think. So kind of like what he's doing there.
It feels like if you're going to bet him, you got to bet him now, because if the first time he pitches,
take those the plus odds while you can. Right?
Yeah, because those odds are going to plummet
much longer. I mean, Judge is already minus 155, so you might as well take the plus odds on Ohtani while you can. In my opinion, Cy Young, I think, Garrett Crochet, Tarek Skubal are the two favorites, deserved in the American League. Cole Reagan's plus 850, not bad. I think he could have a big year. Pablo Lopez plus 2,000, not really sure he's going to be a Cy Young level guy. So I don't know. I think it's hard to get away from the favorites again. It doesn't make for fun conversation, but just, you look at these lists and it's like, can I really imagine any of these guys jumping off enough to be worth it? And I just really can't. So
it feels like
Google both have the lights out stuff and the strikeout upsides that are going to really wow people while playing for pretty good teams.
It feels like right now, and I think this is why baseball is kind of in like a hot stretch right now. Like, to me, like, interest is up, it feels like, and it's because the stars are producing.
Yep.
And when the stars produce and they're well known, we end up with conversations like the one we're having right now. Like, the long shots don't make a lot of sense to get on, because if you have stars with name recognition, guys who've been into the playoffs, like a Judge, you mentioned Skubal for the Cy Young, like guys who've been on national TV in the playoffs in big moments, have performed there, and they keep performing the next year. Yep. Like, it makes these conversations, like you said, like not that much like fun necessarily, if is the right way to put it, but like when your studs perform, like that's just kind of the way it falls.
Right. It just is what it is, man. And it's pretty much the same in the National League. Like, Paul Skeens is the favorite, plus 155. I think he's plus 155 because he's about as public of a baseball player as you can get right now because of all the Livy Dunn stuff and all that nonsense. Give me Zach Wheeler at plus 500. Would much rather bet on him. I think this is Zach Wheeler's year. I think he's deserved to win the Cy Young before now. He hasn't done it. I think this is his year. So give me Wheeler at plus 500 in the National League. I'd take that for sure.
And I know wins aren't much of like a stat anymore, but
right.
If it's close, does something like that push Wheeler over the edge against?
I think it could, and it'll definitely go in his favor because the Pirates are not going to be that good. But I think a lot of the voters now don't really factor in wins as heavily as they used to. So I don't think it'll make a huge difference, but it will. Like if you see Zach Wheeler with 20 wins and Paul Skeens with 10, it makes a little bit of a difference at least.
Yep. What do you got for rookies? Anything to highlight here?
Yeah, rookies of the year. I mean, Christian Campbell's just been off to such a great start. He's the favorite right now, plus 175 in the American League. I think, man, I'd probably take a shot on him. I think he's played really well, but it's hard because any of these guys could jump up. I'd probably avoid the pitchers like Jackson Jobe, Jack Leiter, Cam Smith. If he can get hot and go on a run, maybe plus 1,700 right now. Jacob Wilson's the second highest at plus 550. Just not sure he's going to hit enough. He's off to a good start, but I'm not sure he's going to hit enough. And then Jason Dominguez is third right now in the odds at plus 650. Highly touted prospect, but I think that plus 650 is kind of partly because he's a Yankee. Yep. So Christian Campbell, deserved favorite right now. Kind of a weak class. You could take a shot on Roman Anthony at plus 1,700. I think he's going to be a really exciting player. Like I said, he's the top prospect pretty much anywhere you look in baseball right now. But the question is, when's he going to get up? Campbell started the season, broke camp, and he's off to a good start. So he's going to have that extra. He's going to have a full season of stats. So he might be hard to overcome when all is said and done. National League's kind of a mess right now. Dylan Cruz and Matt Shaw are the favorites at plus 350. Cruz has been off to a really bad start. Shaw's been okay. Roki Sasaki was probably the favorite before the season after signing with the Dodgers coming over from Japan. He pitched pretty well today against the Phillies, but he was pretty shaky in his first two starts, and they're not letting him go deep into games. So not really sure he's going to be able to make enough of a run. And then you look after that, it's just kind of bleak, man. Like, just don't really love any of these guys, honestly. But I don't love Cruz because he's off to a slow start. Now, I do like him long term, so maybe he can get hot and do something. But it's hard to bet on him as the favorite right now. So the NL is kind of a mess, in my opinion.
And it can be weird in baseball because somebody can come up in May and then just go on a run, or even June. Like, you can kind of see someone sneak in there, and it's like all of a sudden they're knocking the cover off the ball, and away you go.
Exactly. So it's just hard to. The rookie of the year is always kind of a tricky one, in my opinion.
Yep. Good stuff, E. Good stuff. I'm not even gonna make you do a pick this year for World Series. I know you hate it, but I'm gonna switch it up here. It is Masters week. I'm gonna make you give me a Masters pick.
Not really. I'll I don't know. Can you give me a second, Wally? Let me take a little look at the power rankings here.
Take a look at the power rankings. Look at the board.
Let's see. So RotoWire has Scotty Scheffler as the favorite, no, top in the power rankings, followed by Rory McIlroy. How do you feel about that, Wally?
So, I mean, Scheffler's rounding back into form a little bit here. He cut himself trying to make gnocchi over the winter.
Okay.
Was using a wine glass and shattered it into his hand. So he was off for a little while, but started putting well last week, which has been his bugaboo. I went on kind of a rant last week where I said I'm having a hard time not just locking him into my one and done league.
Right.
I think Rory's got the biggest, whatever you want to call it, about winning the Masters. It's what he needs to complete the career Grand Slam. Yep. And I think he's got the biggest bugaboo about winning it. Hasn't won a major in 11 years now. I don't think he's getting it done at Augusta. And then you got the live guys out there, the Brysons, the Brooks. Like, nobody really knows what's going on with their game. And I don't know that anybody else is banging the door down on the PGA Tour that's really telling me, like, I got to look at this guy. So it's chalky, as everything else has been in our discussion today with college basketball and, baseball. But, like, I think it's Scotty Scheffler again. Okay.
Well, listen, how about, for a little bit of a longer shot, how about Minwoo? Minwoo. No, all right, never mind.
No, that's not, that's Siwoo. Siwoo shaking that ass.
I know it is. I'm just trying it on for Minwoo, it fits kind of. I'm going to go with Xander Schauffele, all right? That's who I'm going to pick. With no rationale whatsoever. I'm not going to give you a reason, but that's who I'm going with, all right? Xander Schauffele.
I mean, 2 major wins last year. He's been battling a little bit of a rib injury so far to start the year, but has played well here in the past as well, too. So, and was, the second best golfer on the planet last year. So, good pick. Good pick.
Right. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. What is the Masters next week?
Yeah, it starts Thursday.
All right. Awesome. All right. Cool.
Anything else, E?
Nothing, buddy. The only other thing I wanted to ask you, and I meant to do it at the beginning, is are you okay? Because last week I got a little worried about you in your pronunciation of continuity.
Oh, dude, I was really struggling with that one. I couldn't figure it out.
You were. I'm glad to see you've overcome it. You're still healthy. You're doing all right. All right.
It probably sounded like I was having a stroke while I was trying to pronounce that.
It did, man. But I'm glad you're doing okay.
I'm good.
All right, brother.
All righty. Thanks, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Time for some passing thoughts. Passing thoughts is going to encompass a whole range of things tonight. Sports, everything. So, national title games tonight. National title game was tonight. Florida and Houston. Yes, Houston, because Duke absolutely choked down the stretch. Let me just give you some numbers here. Duke led by 14 with 8 minutes and 3 seconds left. With 2 minutes left, Duke led by 9. With 34 seconds left, they led by 6. They led by 3 with 25 seconds, and their final lead, 1 with 19 seconds left. They made 2 field goals over the final 13 minutes of the game. All-time epic collapse from a team we talked about, feeling like they had all the momentum, all the star power, all the talent. The ball was rolling in their direction, it felt like. And it felt like that for towards the end of the first half and then into the start of the second half. That's what it felt like there, too, that it was just due time. That, excuse me, sorry, still battling the sickness. It was just due time, and it was going to happen. And then it doesn't. It just fell apart. I mean, they led by 6 at halftime, too. What? 2 buckets in the final 13 minutes. I had Duke, so I was a little upset. Not terribly upset, but there was just they couldn't inbound the ball late. What's their guard's name? Is that Tyrese Proctor? That's him, right? Yeah, Tyrese Proctor refusing to pass the ball to Cooper Flagg. I mean, Cooper Flagg had himself a nice game. 27.7 rebounds, 4 assists, 8 of 8 from the line, and Tyrese Proctor wouldn't pass it to him at the end. Guy had been shooting 50%. Again, I apologize about the coughing here. So we're set for Florida and Houston tonight. Florida, after a slow start in the first half, kind of ran away with it. I believe you'll remember Jeff Slanovic saying that, I don't know if I said this, or maybe he's just said it to me, that we weren't sure that Auburn could put together 40 full minutes, and he kind of was the thing. They got kind of run out of town a little bit in the second half there. It was outscored by 14 in the second half after an 8-point lead. They let up a couple of weird buckets right at the end of the first half when it looked like they were going to kind of push it out a little bit, and it didn't. But yeah, tough one, tough way to end. You make it all that way, and you don't get there. But we got Florida and Houston tonight. I like Florida. I don't know why. Hard for me to like a team that plays like Houston. It's just not my style. It's not my style, which probably means Houston will win. It's probably what it means. So we went 1-1 on that. We're like, again, I don't know where we're at. We're like one number above, one number below. We're somewhere around 50%. Maybe just a hair over. I think we're like down a couple of bucks, a couple of units, the cool cats may say. But all in all, the NCAA tournament's been fantastic. A lot of good, entertaining games. I will swing back to the Duke thing here. There have been some people, complaining about the play they ran for Cooper Flag at the end of the game, and it wasn't much of a play. I get that. Talked to a friend of mine. You know him from the pod, Matt Wader. He was complaining like we didn't run a set. And I said to him, I go, hey, I get it. But I've seen it the other way where sometimes people try and run sets in those scenarios and they get a little too complicated or they can't get the ball to their guy. I'm kind of okay with what they did at the end of the game. You got a guy like Cooper Flag, let him decide the game. It's if he's your guy, ride him. Ride or two Chibuxy or don't ride at all. And you got him the ball, and he got a decent look. It just didn't go in. Was it the best look? Maybe, maybe not. But you got the best player in college basketball, the ball with a chance to win the game late. And it was right on line. It just needed a little more oomph. So, Final Four tonight. It all ends. And then we were without college basketball for, 7 months, essentially, here. Give me Florida, laying the 1.5. I'll take it. Staying in the sports world real quick here. Brian Harmon, Lil B, holds off a surging Ryan Gerard. Mav McNeely ends up T3 in it. Andrew Novak was right there with him for much of the day. But alas, a final round 75 in conditions that looked putrid to play in. Harmon shot 72-75 on the weekend to get it done. None of his competitors could do it. Andrew Novak actually shot 69 on Saturday, kind of posted a number a little earlier. Weather got a little rough Saturday, too. Wind was just a whipping on Sunday. That was some fun golf to watch. I was enjoying just seeing those guys. I love when golfers have to play in the wind. I hate playing in the wind, but I love watching it, and it is fun. Not a lot of great scores. Patrick Fishburne posted a 4 under 68, but I think he moved up 44 spots doing that. Like Nate Lashley finished T12. He posted 70. He moved up 27 spots. Those guys played earlier in the day. 68 was the low score. Thorborn Oleson and Patrick Fishburne both did that. And again, they played much earlier in the day. They ended up finishing T5, but started the day at T49. So that tells you about a lot where they started. Bud Colley shot 2 under to finish T5, and he moved up 23 spots shooting 2 under. That was a rough day of golf, and Brian Harmon got done what he needed to get done. Turned in 3 over, but made a couple birdies before giving a couple back on 15 and 16. 16 playing brutal, except for Andrew Novak on Saturday when he bounced one off the grandstands and then signed the grandstand. That was fun, too. So all eyes turn to the Masters. I love the Masters. Thursday will be here before you know it, and then unfortunately they'll be teeing off. The leaders will be teeing off on the back nine on Sunday, and you'll be like, what the hell just happened? It's all gone. But Scotty Scheffler, I've said it before. I'll say it again with Ethan. I said it just with Ethan. He's the guy. He's the guy I'm picking. Rory McIlroy will not get it done. I will stand buy that right now. Rory McIlroy will not win the Masters. Can't wait to have to come back here and clip that next week. But if we do, we do. It'll be a good story. The Guards, the Cleveland Guardians, not a good West Coast road trip for us. Get swept by the Padres. Take the first from the Angels. Jose has 3 homers in that game. All downhill from there. Drop a couple more. Give up 10 runs on Saturday and then 6 more on Sunday. Rough. Let's get back home. Get right. We got the putrid White Sox coming into town for a 3-game set to open it up. They play Tuesday through Thursday. Stay home over the weekend with the Royals. So games are on at some better times. Don't have to watch a game starting at 9:00 at night, thankfully. So So looking just hoping we right the ship a little bit. And again, got teams we should be able to do it with. White Sox and the Royals, who we already took 2 or 3 with. Royals will be better than the White Sox, obviously, but 3-6 to start the year. Already a couple back of the Tigers. Not what we don't want to get in this trend. We don't want to get in this trend. We talked a ton of baseball. I don't need to go into that too much. What else we got? What do we got in the actual passing thoughts here? Val Kilmer, R.I.P. Val Kilmer, one of the best. Top Gun, obviously. Heat, Tombstone. Tombstone's the one. I mean, I'm your Huckleberry. What a goddamn performance in Tombstone from that guy. Just, chef's kiss. Rough end of his life. So hopefully, off to a better place for the guy. One of the just great actors ever. Just kind of an odd, quirky dude too, if I'm not mistaken, but just really brought it on the big screen. I saw this. We've been watching The Roommate by Tad Scrubs on. It's kind of like our show we're watching right now. Remember when you weren't allowed to use your cell phone in a hospital? Whatever happened to that? Obviously, that's not a thing anymore. Just completely gone. No longer a thing at all. Gosh, excuse me. I do apologize. Ice cream cake. It was my birthday on Friday. Roommate got some ice cream cake, and God, ice cream cake is absolutely delicious. It's some of the best stuff ever made. I mean, it combines 2 of the greatest things ever, cake and ice cream. And when you make a cake out of ice cream, it's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. Never forget that. Let's do this one. This dude, Chris McKee, at Mr. McKee, at MRMCKEE on the X app. Tiger Woods sitting at home seeing the likes of Phil Mickelson and Sergio Garcia playing their best golf in ages is a testament to their training regimen and diet compared to Tiger's. Pro Golf Critic asked Sergio if this is the best golf he's ever played, who sits in second at Live Miami. That hurts me. All of that hurts me. Hurts me to no end. Is this the best golf Sergio has ever played? We're going to start there before we get to the most ludicrous thing. Sergio, a guy who's won a major, who's won multiple times on the PGA Tour, has played his balls off in countless Ryder Cups. Took a second at Live Miami, and that's the best golf he's ever played? I mean, who even won this stupid thing? Let's see if I can even find it. I actually turned it on a couple of times. Mark Leishman won. Sergio finished third. He shot 70-70. He shot 70-71-71. I think they were playing Trump Doral, so tough place. But that's the best golf he's ever played. Third in a 54-man field. Huh? Then we're going to act like Tiger is jealous of Sergio and Phil? Come on. I'm a huge Phil fan. Tiger ain't ever going to be jealous of Phil. Tiger's won 15 majors. He's the best. He's played the best golf of anyone in the history of the world. He's the best golfer ever to have lived. Jack Nicholson had a little better career. Jack Nicklaus had a better career. Tiger's the best golfer that's ever played. These people? I mean, I know what it is. It's a fucking engagement farmer. Just like saying dumb shit because that's what these live bots do. Also, I tried to give this an honest shot because they're at Trump Doral, so it's a course I kind of know. There were some good dudes up at the top of the leaderboard like Leishman and Sergio and Bryson and Phil and Rom finished T9. Like, I think the worst he's ever finished in live. And every time I turn it on, there's 87 different fucking things on the fucking TV screen. None of them make any sense. At one point, Rom hit a drive and that said the carry distance was 115 yards. And then 10 minutes later, it sped it all the way up to like 280. I just can't do it. I have, again, nothing against those dudes who went over there and got the money. All for you. Anthony Kim, we're just done with that. Holy shit, Anthony Kim shot 83. Ouch. They had a lot of 80s. A lot of rounds in the 80s posted. Chi Po Lee shot an 84. There's an 82. 81. Matt Wolf. What happened to Matt Wolf? He just went over there and just lost it. Graham McDowell, Abe Answer, both. Wait, no, Graham didn't shoot. Graham shot rounds of 79 and 78. Kevin Na and Abe Answer shot 84 and 80. Henrik Stenson shot an 80. Like, whew, must have been playing tough out there. Thomas Peters opened with an 80. I mean, these guys are mostly all just past their prime is the main of it. Anna Arnold here, 79. Ooh, man, there were some rough days out there for some of the boys. What'd Phil shoot? 69, 73, 73? Not bad. Not bad. But, yeah. Just dumb people. There's a place in my hometown that makes some good pizza. Like, probably like top 3 or 4 pizzas I've had, like, in the Midwest. I was really excited. We put a little of our own hot honey on it at home. That was good. Also been playing the shit out of DayZ. Me and the boys been getting after it. We're getting our shit kicked in. People keep raiding our base. But I know this game's probably old as hell, but we've been getting after it. DayZ. That's where it's at. All right. I'm done. We'll go wrap this thing up. Closing time, everybody. Thank you for everyone who watched and listened. Really appreciate you guys. Thank you to Ethan E Sexton for coming on and giving us the baseball rundown. Thank you to producer Kevy, as always, for helping get started with the whole video deal of this. Don't forget to check out our guy MJ. Remember, he said we'd ever give him shout out. MJ over at the 4-Range Pod on Spotify. You can find him on the Ole Walls House YouTube channel. We'll be back next week. Got to talk to Masters. So Masters heavy episode to recap that next week. Plenty of baseball, plenty of other stuff going on that we'll have to chat about too. So till then, peace.